So you've got a massive exodus of human capital leaving the industry, and the industry is actually burning on both sides of the candlestick because.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Today we have Keith Campagna on the pod, and he is a member over at Accounted For. And also shout out to Dr. Lance Knob for the introduction and connecting Keith and I. Keith, good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you, Dave.
Great to see you. Great to connect. We're going to dive into a bunch of things in regards to private practice, finances, and accounting, and all the things that are vital to keep a practice moving, to keep it operating so that we can all service our communities and impact our patients. We'll get into it either right away or eventually, but there's like a massive problem that we were just talking about. The biggest problem for private practice owners around finances and accounting from the whole world of accounting. We're going to get into all of that. I don't know if you want to start there. Obviously, you can introduce Accounted For and what you guys do, but you let me know if you want to start there, or we'll kind of move into it.
Yeah, I mean, we could get right to it. We're an accounting firm that does accounting differently than all the other accounting firms. That's a fun way to start it. But, I think in terms of the audience, like the level set here is that, the most recent private practice section conference down in November, we were there and we walked away with the 3 top challenges that physical therapist owners are facing. 1, we all know reimbursement rates are dropping. 2, recruitment seems to be an ongoing challenge anywhere you are in the country. And the thing that really didn't surprise me and my partner, but certainly it was surprising to see how much of a challenge this was. Number 3 was owners have to understand their financial data more. And to us, that's where we fit in. And if you follow it through, if you can handle number 3, number 1 and number 2 become easier to take on.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So in the pre-interview, you mentioned something about practice owners kind of operating their practice moving forward, but basically like looking in the rearview mirror. So like clarify that like analogy for me.
Sure. So if we look at the standard way that small business owners, not just in private practice, but small business owners, the way the accounting world, the accounting industry serves the small business owner, it's like this. 8.5 out of 10 business owners use QuickBooks. They all have accountants that take their QuickBooks data and structure it in a way that reflects tax liabilities and profit, because that's what accountants do. But every single person who has QuickBooks, who uses an accountant, has data that's set in the past. And you and I both know that business owners are moving so fast, no one has time to look back and try to figure out what their actual financial data is doing and how it's working out for them. So it's kind of like driving your company forward using your rearview mirror. You're simply not going to get to where you want to go as well as you could. Enter Accounted For. What we've done is built proprietary software that bolts onto QuickBooks. We take out all that financial data. We actually apply hundreds of rules that QuickBooks just simply isn't capable of doing. And then we restructure QuickBooks so that the small business owner can open up their account and see how much money in cash flow they have that day. Cash flow is everything to small business owner. Taxes and profit are just part of the financial blah, blah, blah. But in order to actually understand and feel comfortable where your business is, everybody knows knowing where your finances are plays a huge role. And then just to take it a step further, we wind up using our software to provide forecasting and predictive analytics that you could count on. So now instead of driving going forward with the rearview mirror, think of us as that GPS that not only provides you the data to get to where you want to go, but we're that fun, soothing coaching voice that guides you along the way, because we offer virtual coaching as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't know, like it makes sense, like why, I guess the way the QuickBooks was always structured or the accounting world was always structured, like why isn't what you guys do commonplace? It seems like it would make the most sense, because then practice owners can understand their cash flow and they can understand, like, do we have the ability to hire a new therapist? Do we have the ability to buy a new piece of equipment that's like $20,000 or build out, some construction to expand the office or to open up another office and maybe get financing or whatever. So why is it not commonplace?
Well, I think because to answer that, we have to take a look at the macro trends inside of the accounting world, right? You've got accountants that focus on taxes and profits. You have finance people that focus on EBITDA, which has got everything to do with what the output of an exit might look like. But nobody's really looking at cash flow. And inside, you would think that the accounting industry was doing this, but inside of the accounting industry, it's pretty well, you could Google this and you'll get a bunch of articles, but there in the United States, there's an accounting crisis taking place. According to the whatever committee or group that oversees it, right? Kind of like the APTA, they've been releasing information that 70 to 75% of the registered accountants in the United States are already at or will be at retirement age by 2030. So you've got a massive exodus of human capital leaving the industry, and the industry is actually burning on both sides of the candlestick because college students entering accounting departments and programs are dwindling. Those numbers are dwindling, and graduates that leave with an accounting degree, I read one recently, an article where about compared to like 2019, I think 30% fewer people are taking the CPA exam. So the accounting industry is burning on both sides of the candle, and everyone's trying to fix the accountant problem. No one's looking at the business owner and helping them solve cash flow like we are.
And so are you guys mostly working with private practice owners?
We fell into that as a niche. We're 5 years into this. We kind of like Bruce Lee, go like water, right? We found that the healthcare service industry is the one that we do the most work, the best work with. And physical therapist owners are great. Most of them come from some sort of athletic background, which means they understand the value of coaching. They all have an immense amount of passion and purpose with helping people, and not one of them took a lick of accounting in college or in post-grad. So the need is very real. It's a very lucrative business if you could catch wind and find your path. And so why try to figure out other wheels to invent, right? So we've got healthcare, we've got dentist, podiatrist, pediatric therapy, speech, occupation, and chiropractors. And we've got software clients, and we've got managed service providers. We've got a bunch of different variables, but we love what we are learning with the PT world.
Awesome. And in terms of cash flow, like when you're speaking with a new practice owner, or maybe they're a little bit younger, or they're less savvy in accounting or finances and all that, like how do you help them make sense or even just define cash flow? Because a lot of practice owners, I think, will just kind of do accounting on their own or look at their finances on their own of like, however much money is in the bank account, right, like a day before payroll or a week before payroll or something like that.
Right.
And then cash flow is important to define and understand because of, especially with reimbursement, like if you're billing insurances, then there's the delay of when that money is actually in your account. So like, how do you help practice owners understand or define cash flow in regards to like when that specific dollar amount hits your bank account over what period of time?
Yep. And again, this speaks a little bit to the technology, but then it also speaks to the way that we'll coach them into the information, which is to say that QuickBooks is, in all of its wonder, a good accounting software, but it's not focusing on the details of all of the transactions. So our software will pull out all of those transactions and we'll find the code behind that. And then what we can do is we can restructure it so that we could use it appropriately. Here's a good example. All of these insurance providers have certain days of the week where they will actually reimburse. So we're able to pull that information out. And now instead of just thinking that, last month, so-and-so insurance provider paid us X amount of dollars, we're able to break it down so on average, what days of the week, which providers are going to be reimbursing you. And then we layer in your payroll information, because if you're paying biweekly, there's a really good chance that 2 months out of the year, you've got 3 payrolls. So now we're in a position to take both of those sources of information, we layer them together, and we take in all of your recurring expenses, all of your discretionary spend averages, and then we put it in front of you. And we say, this is how your numbers are actually working. We know that in a couple months, you're going to have five Fridays, right? So you're going to make more money from the insurance carrier, but you're also going to carry a higher payroll liability. So let's maybe start saving these next few months so that you don't have to. And here's the biggest part of it, Dave. You don't have to worry about this. The biggest thing that I think our clients would say they get from us is financial clarity equals mental clarity. And all of these practice owners have so much going on. The slightest amount of mental clarity goes a long way. And it just helps you make better decisions personally and professionally.
Sure. What are some things that slow down practice owners, the ones that you coach and consult with? Is it a block, like a big group of treated visits that are already, billed claims that then get denied, and then it kind of throws off their income, it throws off their cash flow? Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's more on the billing and the compliance side of things with like coding, which is not really in your realm. That's more of like on the billing side of things. But any other like roadblocks or hiccups that you see practice owners making, at least either upfront with you guys or maybe before working with you guys, that obviously causes the stress, the overwhelm, and all those other challenges?
Yep. So I'll give you an answer. I think it's a good answer, but it's not great news. And it's the people. How are they? Like, the largest expense everyone is carrying is their payroll and their people. So a lot of these private practice owners aren't really on top of how productive or how much of a liability their payroll expense is. Do you need two admins here? If so, why? The fundamental or clinicians, right? Like, who's more productive and why? There's something to be said for driving and growing a practice using your gut instinct. But when you can attach financial data that you can trust, now you can see what's going on in a current state. And then we start having, again, part of our combined offering of coaching and software is we run predictions and what if scenarios. So what if we move this clinician from one location to the other? What if we were able to raise your average visit rate up X amount of dollars? Then we could get to your goals, right? Maybe we could get to your break-even number if we just made this one little tweak. And then the question becomes, and I know you're familiar with this part, what do we have to do to make that tweak? Do we bring in a company that handles billing a little bit more efficiently? Do we bring in another company like I know there's a lot of new things coming out there, but like Sarah Health, they seem like they've got a good idea, right? They could make it easier for, so far as I understand, private practices. You could get your care management down to fewer visits because you're able to engage your patient while they're away from the office. So there's a lot of ideas that simply business owners don't know about because they're too busy in their business.
Right. And shout out to Steve Cohen from Sarah Health. Had him on the podcast months ago.
Nice. That was not rehearsed, folks.
No paid placement either. Just a shout out.
Right.
Okay. So you said 8.5 out of 10 business owners or private practice owners use QuickBooks. I looked on your website. There's like a free QuickBooks assessment. So you guys will kind of, with someone who's potentially going to work with you guys, take a look at their QuickBooks.
Yeah.
If someone if I joined you guys, or if someone joined you guys, does the practice owner working with you still use QuickBooks, or is it like your own system and you don't use QuickBooks anymore, or like is it optional, or how would that be?
No, it's the gate. We bolt on to QuickBooks, so QuickBooks is a must-have. So no one has to change that. And the assessment, I'm glad you brought that up, because what the assessment allows us to do is, as we get account access, we don't change anything. It's pretty standard procedure. We're able to go in and see the story the numbers tell. Again, most private practice owners don't understand accounting. So when we go through the assessment with the individuals, we're able to translate what we see. You'd be surprised how much money is often left on the table because of the way the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, and bookkeeping neglect in general. And then we start explaining what we would do differently. We show them our software. We show them the projections that could come from combining their QuickBooks with our software. And then from there, and I love this part, 8 out of 10 start to consider, actually, we'll move forward as clients, because they recognize that the value we bring is pretty well off the charts. And I'll mention this: we have month-to-month agreements, no long-term commitments, and a value guarantee. Any client of ours we coach, if they don't think that they're getting the value that we provide them, whatever that dollar amount is they think they're not getting, we will give it back to them the following month. Like, it's a very easy partnership to get into.
Yeah. And hopefully, like, I know, because you're describing your service, because it's like, it's different than just like a practice owner who's just using QuickBooks on their own. I hope this does not come off as like almost like a commercial, because I want you to kind of describe your service. And you know, you and I had a Zoom call before, and I was like, dude, like, you need to come on, like, we need to talk about this for sure. So again, like, you know, Lance introduced us. This also is not a paid placement. I wanted you to come on here. This sounds like something like, you know, I need to look into it. Like, maybe I should be using this. And then that's why I was like, hey, this is something that we could discuss and maybe record and get it out to other practice owners as well.
Totally, dude. And look, again, like there are some, it just happens to be one of those things that makes sense. Like, I always say, like, I do a lot of coaching, right? And I always ask entrepreneurs the same question: what's the problem you're trying to solve? And if you could recognize a problem that you could then solve and then quantify the value of solving that problem, well, now you're doing good for the business community. You could be doing good in general, right? So it just happens to be one of those things where the macro trends inside of the accounting industry, inside of the private practice world, it's not like accounted for has got anything to do with falling reimbursement rates. That's like, it's kind of like we're learning all this stuff. It's kind of criminal the way the insurance industry is beating up on all the well-intended private practice owners. So we certainly hope that this is a much more informational conversation, right? Because really that's what guys like you and I want to do. We want to help the people that are very busy trying to do good, do what they're doing better and have more fun. You know, like, there's a lot to be valued in the hard work that's out there, and not just physical therapy, but in a lot of businesses.
Yeah. So since you brought up like insurance and payment and reimbursement, all that, have you seen, I guess, with your clients, so you do the coaching and you obviously will look at a lot of their numbers and financials and all that. Have you seen any change in practice owners, like adding more private pay services or out-of-pocket services, or no?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. There's a trend. Cash is king, so to speak. I know that there are, I don't really want to bash any one provider, but there's a provider out there that is known for being the lowest in reimbursements. So I know, and we've got PT clients in, I think, 19 states now. So we're seeing a nice broad stroke of behavior across the country. And, you know, our clients are dropping the low reimbursement carriers and making that transition into maybe a higher touch, more serviceable cash first, cash only kind of a model. Absolutely.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's more and more of a trend, and there's more practice owners either adding out-of-pocket services, potentially dropping some of those low-paying, you know, in-network plans and contracts. I mean, even if it's like one at a time. I know this is a little bit outside of the realm of what you deal with, but like, it all kind of factors into the finances and, you know, private practice, like financial health. So it's I don't know, it's an interesting conversation and a challenge, and I know that it could be done, you know, slowly over time. Like, you could, you know, maybe drop the lowest paying contract. There's other people, there's other coaches and mentors that, you know, help with that or whatever, and adding other out-of-pocket services, which then, you know, let's say, so you're in the Philly area or Allentown?
Yeah, we could go Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Yep.
Lehigh Valley. So like, I'm up here in Brooklyn, but let's just say, like, if you live up here in Brooklyn, you have the ability to pay out of pocket either for all your physical therapy visits, or you can find places, you know, online that, like, maybe you go to physical therapy at one location for, like, through your insurance, but then there's other specialized physical therapists that'll have certain, like we use a device called the stim pod, or maybe you want to inquire about Takar therapy that is from some other practice, or a third practice has like a newbie device or something like that, that's like direct current for movement and pain relief or whatever. And it's interesting. The healthcare consumer, it has the ability to kind of see what else is out there with Google and Instagram and YouTube, and see what other things are out there. And that's, I think, what practice owners have to do, kind of looping it back into this conversation, which is you have to be open-minded for some of these other opportunities, some other things that are services that are out of pocket, that a healthcare consumer, that a patient client might be interested in paying for. And the beauty of it, going back to the finances, is that if you pay us, $100 out of pocket, $200 out of pocket, whatever, that hits our bank account in about what, 3 days or something.
Right.
And most likely never gets disputed, most likely never gets clawed back.
Right.
As opposed to some of these insurances that it might take, Medicare, what is it, 14 days? Some of these other insurances might be 21 days. It might be 2 or 3 months in some cases.
Yep.
And then those some of those get denied or clawed back. It's insane.
And you don't have to worry about any breach of information when it's a cash transaction. I know that's something that a lot of people are dealing with. There was a massive, I can't think of the name of the vendor, but there was an information breach, right? That everyone's still reeling in. And, there's something to be said for that. Like, let's double click on this. Ancillary services inside of the physical therapy world, and from my perspective, are a part of the solution to the idea of, one, solving the problem for your patients, which is just better care and feeling better, but two, it helps offset all of these falling reimbursement rates. And I was, I'm a growth strategy guy. And so one of the clients that we have, I was working with them and they happen to be local. And I happen to have a bad shoulder at the time. So when I was in there, I was asking questions about what they're trying to do and accomplish. And I was working with the office, like the number one therapist, the one that's like in the training to become their own entrepreneur and all that. So we were having a good business conversation. And so I was asking where she felt she could have the most improvement with the location. And she mentioned ancillary services. So lo and behold, and it's these little things, Dave, it's really just so much fun to be a part of, because she said the ancillary services, she wants to get it up. So I look around the entire room and there's all of these great pictures of patients and their therapists and like the success and the quotes about how much better they feel. But not one of them showed anything to do with the lasers or the massage or any of it. I said, why don't you just start putting up, like when you do your eval, find the motivation as to why, so what is this injury keeping you from doing? Oh, so you can't, you want to play with your grandkids more. Okay, so if we do it this way, we'll get you there in like 3 months. But I'm telling you, if you let us do this laser thing, we'll get you there in 2 months, or you'll be feeling better sooner. Let's incorporate that. And then you surround the walls with different examples and testimonials. Their ancillary services went up 156% in 6 months.
Wow.
Just the little things, right? And so what does this speak to for the private practice owners that are out there? You're not alone. You're so focused on working in the business, you can't see the forest from the trees. And that's where the big, I know a lot of this stuff because you think outside the box, but it's really, sometimes people don't realize they're in a box.
Yeah. So, and the practices like that have been around for 10, 15 years or longer, like they've always done patient care like the same way and billing all these in-network insurances. And so you're right. Like if they, not that their heads in the sand, but like you said, can't tell the difference between the trees in the forest. And so adding something like that, I like how you kind of differentiate it, and like we can get you back to, playing with your grandchildren in 3 months, but then this laser, which your insurance doesn't pay for and it's out of pocket, we can get you there, in a month and a half or 2 months. And so you can just give the patient, the client, give them the option. It's almost like, you could get there in the fast lane or you can get there in the slow lane. Either way, we're going to get you there. Like we're confident in, getting you there. And, this is assuming like they do the evaluation and they understand like the presentation and everything. Yeah. But that's I mean, and it's also not for everyone. And I know that not all individuals have the out-of-pocket expenses and the financial resources. Not every patient can do it, but it doesn't mean that you can't even just offer it.
Right, right. And there's something to be said, again, because we're fashionably late to the physical therapy world. I like where we are. We're just learning a lot. We're seeing things with the beginner's mind, so to speak. One of the things that I find very, very interesting is there's a journey as it relates to being a physical therapist, right? You're a clinician, then you become an owner, then you become an entrepreneur, and then maybe you become an exiter, right? All those steps require perspective. And the part that I love about the physical therapy community is that everyone is willing to help. So just because you're at one space or one stage doesn't mean, one, you have to go to the next stage if you don't want to, but there are other people doing it. So you don't have to feel alone. You don't have to feel like you're on your own. There are ways of getting to know you're not going to be able to jump out of bed tomorrow and do 10 different things. But if you start becoming more and more aware of it, and again, I know I'm preaching to the choir, it'll happen faster. And then you'll wind up just like that patient care program, right? You'll get to where you want to be faster.
Right on. Do you have any clients doing any like care credit or any patient financing for care? Have you heard about that?
No, not that I know of. But for what it's worth, I don't spend too much time with the day-to-day coaching with our clients. I'm much more of like a good example would be talking to a client and we recognize, because we're coaches, right? So we address business as a game. And if it's going to be a game, there's an offense and a defense. So sometimes there's a service that would benefit our clients maybe in an offensive way where they can make more money, maybe in a defensive way where they would spend less, like billing services or something like that. That's where I get brought in to help the business find a way to do more business better, right? So as it relates to that trend, I have not heard it.
Got it. Got it. What's a good parting shot or last comment before we wrap up, Keith?
Well, thank you. Is a good one. I appreciate the time that you're giving me here. Love what you guys are doing, and I love the energy. I love seeing how I've seen you on like 4 or 5 other people's podcasts. So I think it's great that you're out there spreading the word. The message is that you're not alone, right? Like there's a lot to be said for running a private practice. It's not easy, but the answer isn't to stress out all the time. Like guys like Lance, who know what it's like to almost lose your mind and then regroup, see things differently, and then exit in that American dream model, right? You can do all this stuff. The idea here is that for those of you that are listening and you want to feel better about your practice, don't keep that inside. Reach out to people like Dave, reach out to anybody, and you can start feeling better sooner.
Awesome. And anyone for the audience to reach out to you, whether it's the website or LinkedIn or email address, anything like that to connect with you further?
Yeah, sure. So the website's accounted for, the number 4, llc.com. And then when you get there, you'll see you could sign up for the free assessment. It's a 30-minute conversation with me. I can walk you through everything that we'll be doing. And then you could always check me out on LinkedIn. We've got a Facebook page, accounted for, the number 4, LLC. And I think that's about as good as it gets.
Awesome. Keith Campagna with Accounted For. Keith, thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure, Dave. Thank you. Take care.
Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE@CONCIERGE painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.